Kim Jong-un now warning the world is on the brink of nuclear war as hundreds of U.S. warplanes fly over the Korean peninsula.
The government in Pyongyang has upped its rhetoric, saying that war on the Korean peninsula may be inevitable.
Well, now to a Fox News alert for you. It's not a matter of if, but when we go to war. North Korea's brand new chilling warning as the U.S. Air Force makes a show of force over the Korean peninsula.
North Korea state media is continuing to praise its latest ICBM test, calling it a historic completion of its nuclear weapons program and proof of its mastery in missile technology. A large rally was held in Pyongyang and celebratory remarks delivered by top regime officials to commemorate the self-proclaimed milestone.
Its intentions are to use that weapon for nuclear blackmail and then to, quote, reunify the peninsula under the red banner. So he would use this to extract payoffs, as the regime has done with their nuclear program in the past, and to drive the United States and our allies away from this peninsula that he would then try to dominate.
This Fox News alert for you now. President Trump will handle it. That stern warning coming from top U.S. officials as North Korea sends new threats of nuclear war. Greg Palcott joins us now from London with the latest. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Heather. That's right. Tough talk coming from the Trump administration about North Korea, coming specifically from National Security Advisor General H.R. McMaster. Speaking to Fox News on Sunday, he said, in fact, that the Trump administration will deal with any issues coming from Pyongyang. Take a listen.
If necessary, the president and the United States will have to take care of it, because he said he's not going to allow this murderous rogue regime to threaten the United States.
This all comes as the U.S. and South Korea launch huge joint aerial military drills starting today, going through all this week. Some 230 aircraft involved, including stealth aircraft, as well as 12,000 U.S. service members, both Marine and Navy. They're being deployed from 8 different bases in the region. Now, all of this is annual, pre-planned, but it does come in the wake of last week's launching of an ICBM by North Korea, the longest range, most powerful ever, capable, according to experts that we spoke with, of hitting all of the U.S. mainland with a nuclear payload, potentially. The regime of Kim Jong-un, following that, said that they had completed their rocket and nuclear arsenal. As for these exercises over the weekend, Pyongyang state media saying that all of this pushes the Korean peninsula to the brink of nuclear war, and just for good measure, they branded President Trump insane. A couple more comments from General McMaster, Heather, also telling Fox that the president has told his team to move as quickly as possible to deal with the situation.
North Korea is continuing to celebrate the historic completion of its nuclear arsenal and is also pushing to earn full recognition from other nations as a nuclear state.
Just last week, the rogue regime test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile the U.S. officials say could hit the entire continental U.S. as far as Washington, D.C. So, as the young dictator becomes bolder, what can we do to really rein him in? Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Iraq and Turkey, James Jeffrey. Ambassador, welcome. I'm simply put, as H.R. McMaster said, it seemed that Kim Jong-un is trying to shake us down. I mean, it's extortion. Get out of South Korea, or I'll continue and have a nuclear weapon that can target you.
What McMaster said today is, without doubt, the most important thing any of your viewers will hear or see today, or most days. The reason is, most analysts here in Washington believe that the North Koreans were developing these nuclear weapons supposedly for defensive reasons, to keep us from attacking them as we attacked Iraq or brought down Gaddafi in 2011 in the Middle East. I never bought that theory.
The situation in North Korea, it will be handled, and it will be handled properly.
I'm concerned that sanctions and diplomacy aren't going to work, and it may be necessary for the United States to back up its warnings to North Korea with some form of limited military force, maybe shooting down missiles, possibly a naval blockade. I'm worried we may have to take that step. It's risky, but my concern is North Korea is eventually going to use this large nuclear and missile arsenal, maybe to try to reunify the Korean Peninsula on its terms.
And you are not the only one that's concerned about that. We have this from Senator Lindsey Graham on Sunday, where he called on Americans, or the Pentagon, to evacuate Americans in South Korea. Listen to what he said.
It's crazy to send spouses and children to South Korea given the provocation of North Korea. So I want them to stop sending dependents, and I think it's now time to start moving American dependents out of South Korea.
Yeah, about 28,500 U.S. soldiers there. Does that concern you?
It does. And look, no one wants to talk about war. War will be a horrific consequence for South Korea. But I think these weapons by North Korea eventually will be used. I think we have to put a marker down to make it clear to North Korea that we're not going to tolerate these weapons that not only threaten the existence of South Korea, but also threaten the United States.
So then the question is North Korea getting help with their nuclear development, their rockets? Are they getting help from China or Russia? There was this ex-NATO commander that warned about that over the weekend, and that warned that they're moving too quickly to actually be doing it alone.
This is being hotly debated among experts. The U.S. intelligence community believes North Korea probably did this indigenously, maybe by stealing technology, maybe by using North Korean students who studied in China. I think there's a strong possibility that assistance was received from China or Russia, and possibly Iran financed bringing in foreign experts to work in North Korea to help both the Iranian and North Korean nuclear missile programs.
And why would they want to do that? What would benefit them?
Well, concerning the Iranians, they would like to advance their missile and nuclear programs too, and they want to pretend going along with this terrible 2015 nuclear deal. There's been close collaboration between the Iranian and North Korean missile programs for many years, and there's many experts who think there has been collaboration on their nuclear programs as well.
North Korea has accused the United States of trying to instigate war, citing recent comments made by top Washington officials. The regime's foreign ministry released a statement on its state media outlet on Wednesday, saying recent careless remarks show Washington is taking a step-by-step approach to start a nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula.
What McMaster is saying is this is an offensive capability. He has a huge army. He has many ways to undercut South Korea and even threaten Japan. What keeps him at bay? The American deterrent military structure. But if he can strike the United States with nuclear weapons, even if we would destroy him in return, he feels we won't risk Seattle for the Korean capital of Seoul. That's the danger here, and this is an extraordinary danger at this point.
You call it an extraordinary danger. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, you've got the millions of people in Seoul, 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea, and more others in Japan. I mean, what is the prospect of that?
Well, the problem is, if we tried to use military force against them now, as you said, it would be a horrific war, at least as bad as the 1950-53 war that took over 1 million casualties, and this time he could use nuclear weapons, at least in Korea or Japan. Or we can simply let him dictate terms and eventually push us out of South Korea and Japan and essentially turn it over to China, because China can rein him in, but China does not want to, because China shares the same interest as North Korea of seeing the United States security guarantee in the Western Pacific over Taiwan, over Japan, over the South China Sea, and over South Korea go away. That's China's goal as well, and North Korea is serving it.
You have a great point there, and that is also being reinforced, sadly, at the United Nations. China and Russia, both basically, even though they've signed on to some of these resolutions, teaming up against us. I want to play you a soundbite of the Russian ambassador to the UN last Wednesday, basically blaming us. This guy is blaming us for the tensions because they want what Kim Jong-un wants. They want us to stop the joint military exercises with South Korea, as well as stop deploying those THAAD missiles that are there to protect South Korea. Here's what he said. Take a listen.
It is precisely this way that Pyongyang interprets the extreme military activity in the region, which takes the form of regular large-scale maneuvers and exercises by the United States and its allies, including sending strategic bombers, naval task forces, and aircraft carriers to the region. An additional destabilizing factor in the region is ramping up on the territory of the Republic of Korea of elements of the American anti-missile system THAAD.
Well, you just heard it. I mean, what are the chances of us not conducting these military exercises? There's some starting this coming week. They want us to pare them back.
There's zero chance that we will give in to such outrageous threats. There's no sane person, including in Moscow or Beijing, who believes we have any intention of attacking North Korea to conquer the place. The only reason we would use military force is to get North Korea to stop its nuclear program. And we'll move closer and closer to that if China in particular, but also Russia, which has a border with North Korea, does not act to cut back oil and other strategic materials that is keeping the North Korean war machine going.
Yeah, and they're not showing any signs of doing that. Nikki Haley at that meeting indicated that 90% of the trade has been cut off with North Korea. She said 30% of the oil. 1/3. You know, they're still getting 2/3, and she also pointed out that in 2003, China did cut off the oil, and that brought North Korea to the negotiating table. So your predictions, Ambassador, do you think China will shut off the spigot, and will North Korea go to the negotiating table, or will they have a nuclear weapon?
The key thing is China, because North Korea has gone to the negotiating table 25 times in 25 years, and we never get anything. But focus on China. We need to do two things. First of all, McMaster has to back up his rhetoric with real military action. The Chinese have to believe we're serious about a possible military confrontation, or one could happen by accident. That means real steps, not flybys of airplanes. We need to reconsider the pullout of tactical nuclear weapons from Korea and from our naval vessels offshore.
So
that's
quickly,
the first thing.
Quickly, when you say military action, you know, what specifically do you mean by that?
Well, essentially making it clear that we would be willing to use tactical military weapons, tactical nuclear weapons, in even a conventional conflict, that we will fight for the peninsula.
With all the international sanctions on North Korea, it might seem like the regime has been cut off from the rest of the world. But according to a Washington-based think tank, dozens of countries have continued to work with the North over the last 3 years, violating UN resolutions. Lee Jung-yeon has the details.
Upon North Korea's most recent long-range missile launch, U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley urged all countries to comply with UN sanctions and limit cooperation with the regime. But just recently, according to a report by a Washington-based think tank, 49 countries were found to have violated UN Security Council resolutions on North Korea between March 2014 and September 2017. This includes its main trading partner China, as well as Germany, Brazil, India, and France. According to the report by the Institute for Science and International Security, 12 countries were found to have military links with the regime, including Angola, Cuba, and Syria. These countries either received military training from North Korea or traded military-related equipment with the hermit state. 20 countries were found to have aided North Korea with shipments by reflagging or changing the national registration of ships. The report pointed out that the regime seems to have mainly targeted countries with weak or non-existent export and finance controls.